According to the World Health Organization, cigarettes kill more than 8 million people every year, with tobacco killing up to half of its users. However, over the last 35 years, smoking rates in Britain have halved, with the government stating its ambition of going smoke-free by 2030. Thousands of people in the UK have already stopped smoking with the help of an e-cigarette, also known as a vaping device. There are now 3.6 million vapers in the UK today, with vaping becoming more popular every year. I have talked to industry experts to find out whether e-cigarettes are a safer alternative to traditional cigarettes, and if we should be concerned with the rising amount of vapers in the UK.
Hi there, I'm Louise Ross and I've worked in smoking cessation for a number of years. I'm chair of the New Nicotine Alliance. I work for the National Centre for Smoking Cessation and Training. I'm Business Development Manager for the Smoke Free app. And all those things are very focused on helping people stop smoking, but I'm particularly interested in the role of vaping to help people switch from harmful smoking to much less harmful tobacco harm reduction methods of getting nicotine.
My name's Sarah Jakes. I'm a trustee of the New Nicotine Alliance, which is a charity that aims to represent the interests of consumers of safer nicotine products. I was one of the founding trustees of the charity, so I've been involved with it now since 2015, I believe.
My name's Raf Hamazia. I'm the Group Expert by Experience lead for Signet Healthcare. An expert by experience is someone who has lived experience of using or caring for someone who's used health and or social care services. And in my own circumstances, I've used services myself, and I now work for Signet Healthcare, which is one of the largest independent providers of health and social care within the United Kingdom.
We know that traditional combustible cigarettes are highly dangerous. They're a very lethal form of getting nicotine.
From my own experience, e-cigarettes are a vast improvement on traditional cigarettes. I notice it in my own health. But it's not, this is not just anecdotal. There is a lot of scientific work that's been done on the safety of e-cigarettes compared to traditional cigarettes.
In the context of mental health, tobacco harm reduction and smoking cessation is particularly important because smoking is the biggest killer for people experiencing mental distress. And often you hear the statement that people with mental health die approximately 10 to 20 years younger than the general population, and that's primarily down to factors such as smoking.
In my clinical experience, I've seen enough people switch from smoking combustible cigarettes to using a vape to get their nicotine to believe that it's absolutely, that there's no contest in a sense. A combustible cigarette does kill people. It kills half the users long before their time. And using a vape to get nicotine is a much, much safer way of doing it because it contains nicotine, flavouring and propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, not all the other things, the other very toxic chemicals that a cigarette contains. So I'm absolutely certain that this is a much, much safer way of getting nicotine.
Public Health England a few years ago brought out a report in which they estimate that e-cigarettes are 95% safer than smoking traditional cigarettes. And the Royal College of Physicians came to a similar number. But even that 5% residual risk is really based on unknowns.
I think e-cigarettes really have paved the way for tobacco dependency to be challenged in the context of mental health, and for us to really have a focus on looking at alternatives as how we can really kind of work towards harm reduction, work towards smoking cessation, and work towards parity of esteem within mental health.
There are many very common misperceptions about the safety of vaping, and a lot of that comes from poor science, studies that are almost determined to demonstrate some sort of harm. And in fact, if you scratch the surface, if you look at the way these studies were done, you find that they weren't done in a very scientific way. For instance, there was a study very recently that was widely reported to say that people who were vaping were much more likely to suffer heart attacks than people who didn't vape. But what they did was take people who had been previously smoking. So those 10, 20, 30 years of smoking build up a health legacy of damage. People switch to vaping. Yes, some of them are going to have heart attacks because of the many years of historical smoking, not because they switched to a vape.
There's a lot of common misconceptions about vaping, in the same way there was a lot of common misconceptions around the vaccine, but ultimately we have to be guided by the experts and the clinical bodies that we trust.
To be honest, there's about 40 or 50 scientific papers come out every single week. This is like a hot topic for scientists. And a lot of them, particularly those in the US, are funded to find the problems.
A patient died from a severe respiratory illness, and it could be the country's first vaping-related death.
So far, the Centers for Disease Control report more than 450 possible cases in 33 states of lung illness associated with vaping. And 6 deaths have been confirmed in California, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Oregon, and now Kansas.
We have a problem in our country. It's a new problem. It's a problem that nobody really thought about too much a few years ago, and it's called vaping. We don't like vaping. I don't like vaping.
So what we see is headlines that scream about vaping causing whatever, anything you can think of. And when you actually look at the science, the paper that's been published, what they're talking about is mice who've been, given so much vape that it's surprising they're even alive. The sort of misperceptions that you get is that they are as harmful as smoking, which it just isn't true. That they're hooking kids, that they're targeting kids, all of these sort of things that just in real life just don't stack up.
The e-cigarette market is expanding as the number of vape users continue to rise. According to the Statista Research Department, in 2021, the e-cigarette market in the United Kingdom generated a revenue of an estimated £2.7 billion. By 2025, this figure is expected to increase to roughly £3.3 billion. I spoke with people who make a living in this lucrative industry to discover how they generate their profits and where they see their businesses in the future.
Hi, my name is Billy from Diamond Vapes. We're situated in Leeds, the Hedgerow. We originated from Bradford, where we've got 2 stores and we've got 1 in Leeds now. We've been open 6 weeks so far, and we've had a really good response from the local community in terms of disposables.
I'm Kieran, I'm the Operations Director for Late Night Vapes. We are currently selling vapes in the late night industry, and we're also looking to start delivering to get to a larger clientele.
Hi, I'm Hannah and I'm the Director of Vape Social. Vape Social opened just after the lockdown, so we decided to go for the social aspect of, as well as providing the vaping and the stopping smoking.
Within the next 5 years, we plan to see our business expanded all over the UK, branches in every city. Reason being, vaping is just getting popular every year, more and more popular. Disposables, to liquids, to mouth-to-lung devices, to sub-home devices, everything, it just gets more and more popular. And here at Diamond Vapes we stock everything, anything got to do with vaping, we've got it.
Well, with more and more restrictions around smoking inside, I think vaping's going to get a larger audience, a larger clientele, with more and more different flavours, more variety. I think it'll really take. We've had clients actually already requesting flavours for the likes of energy drink flavours, so we've already straight off gone and ordered them as supply and demand as such. Hopefully, as we expand, we'll get into different cities, maybe with different hubs to deliver, different locations, and just get a bigger client base really.
Recently, disposables have taken over the market. The reason they've taken over the market because it makes it nice and easy for people who smoke cigarettes, cigars and stuff like that to get off them. Reason being, in a typical cigarette that contains anywhere between 1 to 9 milligrams of nicotine. In these disposables, most of them contain 20 milligram nic salt. The 20 milligram nic salt is the maximum legal strength you can get in a disposable, and they've loaded it with it so that when you vape that disposable, you're not feeling the urge to have a cigarette.
Yeah, so everything that I buy, and I can't speak for everybody, but I buy them in from reputable suppliers, and then I check every box as they come in, although I kind of trust my suppliers anyway.
Now, some people have said inside these vaping devices you suck in on the battery, and in reality I have opened up pretty much every disposable we sell here at Diamond Vapes, and I can assure you the top of it's connected to a liquid box which contains liquid, and then that liquid is connected to a battery down here. Now the battery heats up a coil which heats up the liquid, which turns into vapor, which comes through a tunnel straight into your mouth. So by the time it gets to your mouth, it's heated from there and you've gone up a tunnel which cools it down before it actually reaches your mouth.
I don't really import anything from China, any sort of knockoffs or anything. When people buy vapes, say something like an Elf bar, if you see them at like £2, £3, £4, more than likely they'll be fake, just because really they should be £5 plus. I don't know, it screams to me that shop then is obviously buying them in at a much lesser price, which indicates that they're fake.
One of the biggest reasons why we say vaping is 98% safer than smoking a cigarette is when you combust a cigarette, you're actually burning the tobacco. When you burn the tobacco, you're inhaling over 5,000 chemicals known to cause cancer.
So with traditional smoking, obviously there's things like cancers, all sorts of different diseases that you can get from like the tar and everything that's and pretty much everything that's harmful inside any cigarette. I nearly said that wrong.
What vaping is made up of, so liquid I use in these big devices, liquids contained inside these, it's made up of 3 things: VG, PG, that's the flavouring, and then you've got nicotine. So the only harmful thing about that is, other than the inhalation of vapor, is the nicotine contained inside them. The only harmful thing about nicotine is it's addictive. Now that's an addiction you've had before you've come to vaping from your cigarettes.
When you switch to something like an e-cig, there is actually a poster that I've got upstairs that explains after so many weeks your body actually goes back to when you weren't smoking. You don't get the smell, you don't get the stained teeth, that can still be a thing, but you don't get bad breath. And things like coughs.
When you're vaping something or when it's heated, you're not combusting it and it's not releasing all them chemicals which are harmful to your body. Yeah, you might be inhaling vapor, but think about it, if you were to have oily fish and chips, isn't that going to do the same amount of damage as what inhaling vapor would do?
I spoke to ex-smoker Lewis to find out why he made the switch from cigarettes to vaping.
My name's Lewis, and I've been vaping for about 5 months now. Because I found like with cigarettes I was coughing quite a lot, and I just realised more and more that it was quite unhealthy for me. So I wanted to go to vape so I could maybe eventually get the nicotine down to 0, but also get the benefits of actually having a vape which I don't cough as much from and stuff like that. With like the disposable ones, which are still pretty cheap, but I found I was still spending like 30 quid a week on them. So I went to the kind of the refillable, what you call mod tanks, where you can put your own liquid in and you can change the flavour and how much nicotine's in each one from there. And now I'm spending like 30-40 quid a month, which is a lot cheaper than the cigarettes were, which is like 300 quid a month.
For those who have already switched from cigarettes to vaping, it seems to have been a positive change. However, there will always be those who can't kick the nicotine habit. But now, there seems to be a real alternative for people who want to make the change and the majority of vape users are very positive about making the switch. E-cigarettes are without doubt a safer alternative to traditional cigarettes, and if the current trends continue, will likely save the lives of millions of smokers.